We all know the feeling. The harsh fluorescent lights, the endless aisles of stuff you don't need but suddenly must have, the echoing intercom. Walmart. A beacon of consumerism, a haven for late-night snack runs and a breeding ground for unspeakable horror. You might think you're safe, just another face in the crowd pushing your overflowing cart. But what if I told you that behind the everyday facade of discounted groceries and discounted hopes lurks something sinister, something that watches from the shadows between aisles, something that whispers on the wind as it chills you to the bone in the freezer section. These are not stories of fiction, my friends. These are the real experiences, whispered accounts of terror experienced within the aisles of the happiest place on earth, Walmart. Tonight we delve into 3 disturbing encounters that prove nowhere is safe, not even your local superstore.
Imagine this. You're strolling down the cereal aisle, humming along to the pop song crackling through the store speakers, feeling a sense of normalcy. You scan the shelves, finally deciding on a box of your favorite sugar-coated puffs, the bright colors catching your eye. You toss it into your cart, momentarily locking eyes with the elderly woman pushing her cart past, her expression unreadable. She offers a tight-lipped smile and moves on. No big deal, right? Just another shopper. Except, you see her again, and this time, something feels off. In the dairy aisle, her cart seemingly stuck as she stares intently at a carton of eggs, as if lost in thought. You grab your milk, a shiver crawling down your spine as you notice her gaze lingering for just a second too long, making you uneasy. You shake it off, telling yourself it's just your imagination, trying to calm your racing thoughts. But then, you spot her by the toiletries, her cart abandoned as she pretends to examine toothbrushes, her presence unsettling. Her eyes, though, those unsettling eyes, are fixed on you, making your skin crawl. Panic begins to set in, your mind racing with possibilities. You quicken your pace, your heart pounding a frantic rhythm against your ribs, the sense of urgency growing. Every aisle you turn down, there she is, always a step behind, always watching, never letting you out of her sight. You try to lose her in the maze of clothing racks, your breath catching in your throat as you realize she's no longer pretending to browse. She's following you, deliberately. You duck around a corner, your mind racing, trying to think of a way out. You need to find help, but you're trapped in this labyrinth of consumer goods, the fluorescent lights suddenly feeling cold and menacing, casting eerie shadows. Just when you think you've lost her, you spot her again, lurking at the end of the aisle, her presence ominous. Her face is obscured in shadow, but you can feel her eyes burning into you, a predatory gaze. You make a run for it, your cart clattering against the linoleum floor, the sound echoing in the aisles. Your chest heaves as you finally spot an employee, their blue vest a beacon of hope in this nightmare, a lifeline.
You explain everything, your voice trembling with fear, the words tumbling out in a rush. The employee, their face etched with concern, radios for security, their voice steady but urgent. They walk you out, their hand resting reassuringly on your arm, offering comfort. As you reach the safety of the parking lot, you glance back at the store, your blood turning to ice, the fear still gripping you. There she is, framed in the entrance, her face expressionless, her eyes boring into you, a haunting image.
You never forget that night, the terror that gripped you in the aisles of Walmart, a memory etched in your mind. You realize that even in the most mundane places, darkness can lurk, waiting to pounce. And sometimes, there's no escaping the feeling of being watched, a constant, unnerving presence.
They say nothing good happens after midnight. And for Sarah, a college student working the graveyard shift at her local Walmart, that saying couldn't be truer. The store, usually buzzing with shoppers, took on an eerie silence in the dead of night. The aisles, once overflowing with merchandise, now seemed to stretch on forever, shrouded in shadows. It started subtly, a chill down her spine while stocking shelves in the toy aisle, a faint whisper of her name when no one was around. She brushed it off as her imagination playing tricks on her, the product of too many horror novels and late-night caffeine runs. But then, things escalated. One night, while organizing a shelf of discounted DVDs, she swore she saw a figure dart past the end of the aisle. A flash of movement, gone as quickly as it appeared. Her heart pounded in her chest, her hand instinctively reaching for the walkie-talkie clipped to her vest. She called out, her voice trembling slightly, but only static met her ears. Night after night, the unsettling occurrences persisted. Items would fall from shelves seemingly on their own, crashing to the floor with a deafening boom that echoed through the empty aisles. She'd find things moved, misplaced, items rearranged to form strange, unsettling patterns.
Then came the laughter, a low, guttural chuckle that seemed to seep from the very walls of the store, echoing around her as she stocked shelves in the deserted electronics department. One particularly unnerving night, she was alone in the break room grabbing a quick cup of lukewarm coffee. As she turned from the humming coffee machine, she noticed something scribbled on the normally pristine whiteboard hanging on the wall. "You are not alone," it read, the message scrawled in large, uneven letters. Panic seized her. She wasn't alone. She'd never been alone.
Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging the break room into an oppressive darkness. A cold dread washed over her, her breath catching in her throat as she heard a noise from the storage room behind her. A slow, deliberate thump, then another. Something was in there, moving closer. She didn't wait to see what it was. She fled, her sneakers pounding against the cold linoleum floor, the sound of her own terror echoing in her ears. She burst through the store doors and into the relative safety of the night, never looking back. She quit the next day, vowing never to set foot in another Walmart after dark. Sarah's experience serves as a chilling reminder that even the most familiar places can harbor darkness, and sometimes the most terrifying things are those we can't explain. The night shift at Walmart had become a haunting memory, a tale she would never forget.
Chapter 3: The Abandoned Aisle. Have you ever wandered into a section of a store and felt a sudden chill, a sense of unease that settled deep in your bones, making you question your own senses? That's exactly what happened to Michael, a young father just trying to grab some diapers and get home to his family, unaware of the eerie encounter awaiting him. It was late, the store practically deserted, except for a handful of dedicated night owls, each lost in their own world. He pushed his cart down the aisle, the fluorescent lights humming above him, casting long distorted shadows on the floor that seemed to dance with every step. He reached for a pack of diapers, his hand brushing against something cold and clammy, sending a jolt of fear through his body. He recoiled, instinctively, his heart leaping into his throat, as he realized he'd brushed against someone's hand. Or so he thought. "Sorry," he mumbled, turning to face the person, expecting to see another late-night shopper. But there was no one there, just the empty aisle stretching out before him. He glanced around, his pulse quickening, the silence of the store amplifying his growing unease. The aisle was deserted, the shelves stretching out before him like silent sentinels, watching his every move. He could have sworn he felt someone there, the lingering chill on his skin a testament to the encounter, making him question his own reality. He shook it off, chalking it up to fatigue and the late hour, convincing himself it was just his imagination. He grabbed his diapers and turned to leave, but the aisle seemed to stretch on, the familiar layout of the store suddenly foreign and disorienting, like a maze with no exit. He tried another aisle, but it led him to another deserted section, the shelves sparsely stocked, covered in a thin layer of dust, as if untouched for ages. Panic began to set in as he realized he was hopelessly lost, trapped in a labyrinth of empty aisles and flickering lights, each turn leading him deeper into the unknown. The air grew heavy, thick with an oppressive silence that pressed down on him like a physical weight, making it hard to breathe. He could hear his own pulse pounding in his ears, the sound amplified in the unnerving quiet, each beat echoing his growing fear. He pushed on, his cart rattling over the uneven floor, the sound echoing through the empty aisles like a drumbeat of fear, urging him to move faster. He rounded a corner, his heart leaping into his throat as he came face to face with a figure standing at the end of the aisle, shrouded in darkness. It was a tall, gaunt figure, shrouded in shadows, its features indiscernible in the dim light, an ominous presence that seemed to absorb the light around it. It stood perfectly still, its presence radiating an aura of menace that sent a shiver down Michael's spine, freezing him in place. He froze, his breath catching in his throat, unable to move or look away. The figure remained motionless, its silence more terrifying than any scream, a silent threat that loomed over him. Then, as quickly as it appeared, it was gone, vanished into thin air. Michael didn't hesitate for a second. He turned and ran, his cart clattering behind him, the sound of his own terror spurring him on, desperate to escape. He didn't stop until he burst through the store doors. the cool night air stinging his lungs as he gasped for breath. Finally feeling safe, he never figured out what he encountered in that abandoned aisle, but the experience left an indelible mark on his psyche, a haunting memory he couldn't shake, a chilling reminder that even in the most familiar places, there are pockets of darkness, and sometimes the best course of action is to simply turn away and never look back, lest you get lost in the shadows.
So the next time you find yourself wandering the aisles of your local Walmart, remember these tales. Be aware of your surroundings, trust your instincts, and if you ever feel like you're being watched, you probably are. Have you ever had a creepy or unexplained experience at a store? Share your story in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more chilling tales from the dark side of the mundane. Until next time, sleep tight and try not to think about what might be lurking in the aisles of your local Walmart.